The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from the darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of the spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of His splendor. They will rebuild the ancient ruins, restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations.
Hey friends of Bridge Street Ministries, Ryan here once again. We are here at our annual celebration. You've heard us talking about this for a few weeks, and we are so excited this week in April 12 through 16 to be able to welcome people into our brand new space. We also wanted to offer this opportunity for those of you that couldn't make it here with us this week to be able to come and experience a little bit about this ministry, this space, hear about the testimony of the faithfulness of God, the restorative power of His kingdom, and celebrate with us a little bit in some of the things that we've been able to be a part of over this last year. You know, this space that we're sitting in here really is a testimony to the restorative power and the faithfulness of God. And this story really started almost 16 years ago, when myself and a couple of other young guys moved into a neighborhood, into this West Side neighborhood. And we didn't move into this neighborhood with any intention to start a ministry, no intention to do what we're doing today. Rather, we moved in with a simple desire to embrace a way of life, to embrace a shared way of life together as followers of Jesus, to pray together, to do that in a neighborhood and to be a part of His kingdom. We didn't know what that was going to lead us into, but we did start with a simple prayer. This is a prayer that we've been praying for almost 16 years here at Bridge Street Ministries, and it's this prayer: God, what are you doing here, and how can we be a part of it? See, when we moved in, we had a sense that God's kingdom is moving around us, it's advancing, and we wanted to be a part of that. And so we just simply prayed this prayer: God, what are you doing here? How can we be a part of it? Now that's a powerful prayer. It's a dangerous prayer. We had no idea what this was going to lead us into over the next decade and a half. The result of this prayer, we learned a couple of things. We learned about a life that we now call a life of obedient faith, believing in a God who guides. And as He guides, He also provides. And so we just started this prayer, and we started to learn about obedient faith. And we learned about this as we prayerfully felt led to open a coffee shop back in 2007. As we prayed about this, as we explored it, as we talked about it, we really felt that this coffee shop was all supposed to be free, to open up a free coffee shop in our community. And we really felt like it was supposed to be a safe place in our community, especially for those on the margins. A place where everybody would feel welcomed and people would feel loved and valued just as they are. A place for community. For 12 years, we offered free coffee to our neighbors, welcomed in hundreds, maybe even thousands of neighbors over the years that found a home and a safe place. A place that represented the love of God and the kingdom of heaven. In those 12 years, we never ran out of coffee. And in those 12 years, we never paid for coffee. We never solicited any coffee. God guided, and then God provided. In 2012, Derek, our operations director, and I have been on this journey for a while. We've been doing a lot of work with youth in the area and from around the city. And we felt this, again, prayerfully felt this leading to start a gap year program, an extended discipleship program where we would welcome in young people after high school to come and join us for an extended time, for 8 months, 9 months, to live in our community, to seek God together, to live in community together and be a part of our ministry here. In 2013, we had 15 young people signed up for a program that didn't yet exist, but we felt like the Lord said go. We didn't have any place for these students to live, and so we approached a local landlord that owned an apartment building. Now, this apartment building was notorious for a lot of drug trafficking, a lot of gang activity, prostitution, real eyesore in the community. We felt led to pray for that building and to offer to buy that building so that we could renovate it and put students in there. The landlord agreed, said he would sell us his building for $190,000. Now, we are a brand new organization at this point. We don't have $190,000, but we felt like the Lord said go. And so we took a step of faith, and a friend of ours gave us a call and said, hey, I believe in that project. I want to buy that building for you. So we buy the building outright. In 2013, we launched what is now called the Grand Rapids Bridge Year. Over the years, these programs, our pavilion, our Grand Rapids Bridge Year, our other youth work has grown and developed. We started to outgrow our small little offices and outgrow our existing ministry space. So we started praying about, there's this other building in our community, this 2-story building, had a vacant liquor store, and then an adult novelty shop connected to it. And the upstairs was residential apartments that, again, were also known for a lot of drug trafficking and prostitution, and a building that just attracted a lot of chaos to our community. Again, prayerfully, we felt led to try to buy that building and to restore that building and create something beautiful there. So after 2 years of negotiations, in December of 2018, we closed on this building, $365,000 purchase agreement with a $700,000 renovation estimate in hand and $200,000 in the bank. But we felt like the Lord said go. And we felt like the Lord said, don't wait, keep moving and I'll provide. So we kept moving. And we sit here today, completed, debt-free. God guides and God provides. You know, we designed this space to be an inspiring, beautiful space. We designed it with big open storefront windows that is a beautiful space that welcomes neighbors in. Also, when you're in here, it's a space that connects you to our neighborhood so that when you're in here, you're connected to the mission of God here in our community. We've designed it with a coffee shop that welcomes in a diverse community of neighbors to experience a beautiful space and to be able to employ neighbors, and a youth center here that welcomes in youth to a beautiful, inspiring space where we can invest in their spiritual and their academic and their social development. We're excited to introduce you to a bit more of this space, to introduce you to some of my teammates that are leading these initiatives, and then to share with you a little bit of where we think the Lord might be leading us in coming years, and want to invite you to join this journey with us. So thank you for following us. Thank you for partnering with us. Thank you for praying with us. And thank you for your love and your support as we take this journey together.
Hello everyone, I am Sherelle Richardson and I'm super proud to serve as the Resurgence Director here at Bridge Street Ministries. Resurgence is a key step in our discipleship program and is also an after-school program where children can come and be in a safe space. We currently serve students on the west side of Grand Rapids in partnership with Westwood Middle School, and we're looking to expand to other schools in the local Grand Rapids area as well. We understand that life on the west side does not present the best opportunities for our students. Many of our students are growing up in single parent households where their parent works, which leaves most of the responsibility of taking care of the home and home upkeep up to the kids. So imagine being 11 years old and having to wake your siblings up for school or cook for the home or clean for the home, which is the burden of many of our students every day. And because of that, a lot of things take a back seat. So there's no room for social development. There's no room for spiritual development. There's no room for academic success because they have to prioritize things of the home. And we noticed that. So at the height of the pandemic, we actually opened up the youth center to be a learning hub. They would come Monday through Friday from 9 to noon. We would provide breakfast. We would provide lunch. We would provide an opportunity to follow up with teachers, to follow up with administrators, and just make sure that the students were able to get the things done that they needed done. We also had an opportunity for them to get assistance with their homework from qualified staff. So a lot of that stress that was on the 11 and 12 and 13-year-olds to do on their own, we actually were able to help with that. One of the things that we focus on a lot here at Bridge Street Ministries and in the Resurgence program is discipleship. Again, Resurgence is the height of or the foundation of our discipleship pathway. And so we focus on holistic discipleship. We understand that when you invite someone to be discipled by you, then that means that you're doing life with them. So you're focusing on growth in more than just the spiritual aspect, but you're focusing on growth in multiple areas at the same time. And so our programming has that lens with everything that we do. One of the things that we like to do with our students is a prayer walk. We do those just around the west side of Grand Rapids. And one time in particular, we went on a prayer walk, and one of the students, I challenged her to pray out loud. And one of the things that she actually said was, "God, I want you to be my God forever." And for me, that was just an eye-opening and eye-awakening thing to see the holistic approach to discipleship at work. When you invite someone to do life with you in multiple areas, not just spiritual areas, but life with you, you're able to see that you can make an impact on the things that they do and the things that they say. And so inviting them into your space and to show them and be a godly example of how to do life, you can actually make an impact on those students. Studies show that students who are 11 to 14 are at a critical age in their development. So they're taking in who they are from the media, from those healthy relationships, and even sadly, the unhealthy relationships. So if we can have an opportunity to impact identity development or to just impact development at all, we want to take full advantage of those opportunities by being godly examples, by being healthy relationships and holistic discipleship. This is why Resurgence is such a key part in our discipleship pathway.
Welcome to our new office. Glad you could join us. What you see today is quite different than what it was. Sadly, the former tenants who were living here were living in incredibly substandard conditions. Years of neglect, multiple fires, and many temporary DIY fixes gone unchecked left this building in terrible condition. That's not good for the neighborhood. It's not good for the neighbors, the tenants who were living there. And we worked with them to get them into some secure housing before we got to work in this space. We are so excited to have an office. In all of our years of ministry, we've worked out of living rooms and kitchens and whatever we could make work to get the job done. And now we have a beautiful space that is inspiring. It reminds our team of the work that we're here to do. If you were to look out these windows, you'd see a neighborhood that we have been called to. And when we invite people down here, we always ask questions like, what do you see that is beautiful? We ask questions like, what do you see that is broken? Are there things that we can celebrate, and are there things that maybe need to be restored or repaired? And usually it's a mixture of both, but these kinds of questions open up conversations about just many complicated topics that show the complexities of life and ministry here in the West Side. There are two programs I want to highlight that help us accomplish the mission of building a bridge between the streets and the church, which is what all these questions we're asking are leading us toward. The first one is called Grand Rapids Immersion. If you're like me, you may have wondered why many youth mission trips leave the country or leave our city to serve elsewhere, but maybe don't put as much effort here. And as we began to wrestle with that question, we decided to start Grand Rapids Immersion to connect local youth with local mission. Grand Rapids Immersion is a 6-day summer trip that brings urban, suburban, and rural youth together for a common mission. The first few days is spent wilderness camping, building community and connecting with God. Then we return to the city for a few days to learn, serve, and celebrate. We learn about the neighborhood that we are in through interactive stories and exercises that expose the complexities of urban ministry. We serve alongside neighborhood leaders and their community to help bring beauty and restoration. And at the end of the trip, we throw a big block party to celebrate what God's doing there, to celebrate what God's been doing on this trip in the hearts and minds of these young people. We've seen so many lives impacted by these trips. One student that I would love to highlight, her name is Kiara. She came on immersion last summer. Kiara came having a basic understanding of who God is, but she had a very profound experience where God became real to her. God became alive and active. And it wasn't through a big presentation or a sermon by a top name preacher or the big stage. It came through sitting in a circle with 4 other people, opening the words of Scripture and reading it out and applying that to her life. And Jesus became so tangible and so real to her through that. Today, she is still connected with Youth for Christ. She's meeting regularly with former staff people that are pouring into her and helping her uncover the truths of Scripture. I love what God's doing in Kiara's life and many students like her. The other program that I'd love to share about is called Grand Rapids Bridge Year. So about 4 years after we started immersion, we launched this young adult program, and is really born out of a desire to see young people prepared for a life of mission. What we were doing on immersion was effective, and we wanted to expand that to a whole year of experience. We started to dream about what it would look like to invite a group of young adults for a whole year to be immersed in a neighborhood, in biblical teaching, rhythms of prayer, and join the work here in our neighborhood. What started as a pretty grassroots experiment has now developed into a robust and growing gap year program that has deeply influenced over 60 students in the last 8 years. Multiple Christian colleges and universities now offer between 15 and 21 credits for students that come through our program at no additional cost. So we're delighted at the favor that we've found with this program, the fruit that it's bearing, and we're excited to see it grow to the next level. If you haven't heard of Grand Rapids Bridge Year, I can explain briefly how it functions. So it's broken into 3 distinct phases. The first phase is called the Spiritual Formation Phase, which runs from September through mid-December. Students live in an apartment building just around the corner. They spend about 12 hours a week in classroom teaching, biblically based teaching. They spend about 15 hours a week doing ministry with us, running our after-school program in our coffee shop, prayer walking in the streets. They're very much a part of the ministry that happens here in the West Side. The second phase of the Grand Rapids Bridge Year is called the Global Mission Phase. So this takes place in January and February. Students and staff travel in teams to Guatemala and India to work alongside our international ministry partners there. And we help them fulfill their mission. Bridge Street Ministries doesn't have, as an organization, a presence in these countries, but we're able to reinforce what we're teaching our students about a lifestyle of mission by serving Guatemalan-led ministries and Indian-led ministries. And we see just beautiful, beautiful fruit coming out of these experiences, both for our partners and for our students. The program wraps up with the equipping and sending phase. This is the third phase of the program. It takes place between March and April. Students apply everything they've learned in the Bridge year, and they apply it to a lifestyle of mission. We want our students to leave here with the tools and the direction they need to follow Jesus in whatever context he calls them into. There's a lot of stories that I could tell about students who have been impacted by this program. And I want to give us an opportunity to hear from a student who graduated last year. Her name is Emily Taylor. She came to Christ shortly before joining this program and is now studying Christian community development at Moody Bible in Chicago. So let's listen to her story. Thank you.
When I found out about the gap year, I had just become a Christian, probably a couple months before then, wondering what I was going to do after my 13th year, because I still had some more college to do before I got my associate's degree. All I knew was that I wanted to do something fiery for Jesus. And this seemed like the perfect thing. It just seemed so attractive to become a part of a Christian community for the first time in my life. It was a safe place for me. Like, I spoke things out into the open, things that I've never said out loud before in front of these people. And living in the body of Christ, it was constant encouragement. And we'd lift each other up in unity, being of one mind and one spirit. I think something that changed for me was just like that superiority complex. I would have just gone into these urban contexts saying, how can I help you? Or like, I have something for you. And actually through our trip to Chicago, I met this guy named Paco and this guy named Doc, and they just spoke so much wisdom into me. And they said, we need to go asking for cups of water, like Jesus at the well with the Samaritan woman. He doesn't just say, I have something for you, or I have information that could save your life. He says, can I have a drink of water? And I think that when we focus on the communities of urban neighborhoods as being asset-based and looking at what they have, that's affirming someone's dignity, because we're not giving them dignity. We're not giving them a voice. We're using our privilege to amplify the dignity and amplify the voice. That trip that we took to Chicago is the trip that God was like, okay, this is it. This is what you're going to do. You're going to amplify the voice of the voiceless. My dream is to go into a neighborhood and love people well. That doesn't necessarily have to be my job, but I just want to love people so well. And not even with an ulterior motive of like, I'm loving you so that I can preach the gospel to you, but after you come to Christ, like, I'm not going to love you like that. I want to love people because they're made in the image of God.
Hi, my name is Cherie, and I am the pavilion manager here at Bridge Street Ministries. I walked into the pavilion as a neighbor 8 years ago, about 7 months from my latest relapse with opiate addiction, pregnant with my third child, just really looking for a place to go and do something different. What I realized was I was looking for a community to be a part of. I walked in there and there was old faces that meant safety for me, and new faces who were willing to engage with me. Those new faces kind of encouraged me along a path of self-restoration. I started getting some of the essentials of life taken care of: housing, employment, things like that. About, 4 or 5 years in, I started really feeling a call to do ministry work. I ended up working for a nonprofit I grew up in as a child, was able to do some professional development through them, and ultimately heard about a position here at Bridge Street Ministries. I applied for the position not really thinking much would come from it, and then I got a call from Derek and Ryan saying, hey, we got this interview set up. How would you feel about being the pavilion manager? I was terrified. Like, no. But I pressed into it, and by the time I left the interview, I couldn't say no. There was no other answer but yes. And within 3 days, I was already in the pavilion, relearning the volunteers that I hadn't engaged with, just feeling out the atmosphere. And fast forward a little bit into 2019, COVID happened, and we had to shut our doors for COVID safety, and then we were expecting to move into this new space. So it was just a really big area of uncertainty where we didn't know what was going on. Our neighbors had a huge longing to help us to be together again. They were asking us things like, can I come in and paint? What kind of work do you need done? Can we help clean up? All things that we couldn't really have anybody in to do at the time, but it was a change in language and a change in relationship. Instead of them asking for things from us, they were asking what they could do for us. And it really sparked this this desire, I think, in me personally, and I think with our team, to just press into what's going on in this new space and how do we continue to be a part of it here? What's God doing here? And I heard God calling me to ask the question, how do we empower neighbors? What would it look like to develop a program that would allow us to do what Bridge Street Ministries did for me, but for all of our neighbors? We really felt called to keep the shalom and the safety here at Bridge Street Ministries. The atmosphere and the community that was built at the pavilion needed to stay at the forefront. To do that, we knew we had to call everybody who walked through the door neighbor. It didn't matter where they came from, what neighborhood, what state. The moment they walked through that door, they were a neighbor. Another thing we felt called to develop was what we are calling our equitable payment model, where we have base prices that are seen on our menu online, up on the wall behind the counter, but we also have the option to pay a little less or a little bit more, depending on what the neighbor felt comfortable with. And that just made it to where, if somebody could afford $1 cup of coffee, well, they could buy a cup of coffee, and it would be the same great cup of coffee that any of our neighbors could get. As a West Sider, I was concerned that some of our neighbors might feel like this was not a space for them anymore, that it was too new, too developed for them. And I was also worried that with the payment model, we wouldn't be able to have the same neighbors come in, that they wouldn't feel that they had a place here, that we were somehow abandoning them. But within the first couple of weeks, some of the neighbors that I thought I probably wouldn't see through these doors were the first ones through the doors, or the first ones there in the morning, or the first ones asking, hey, can I get a job here? Or, are the volunteers coming back? We ended up having volunteers who came just to engage with neighbors that they had built relationships with in the past. We had neighbors engaging new neighbors, new faces in the pavilion that had never been there before, telling them why they liked the old pavilion, telling them what they loved about the new pavilion, explaining the payment model. There was a sense of ownership there, and it wasn't something that came naturally, or would have came naturally outside of, God's provision and God's shalom. And it's just really exciting to me because, that's just the beginning. It's not a change to start something new. It's a continuation on relationship, but it's a new phase, a new chapter, and I can't wait to see what's next for the pavilion here at Bridge Street Ministries.
Well, friends, you heard a little bit more about what we do here at Bridge Street Ministries, heard some stories of impact, met some of our amazing team that has been so faithful and courageous in this last year, and 2020 was truly an incredible year where we saw the faithfulness of God in so many ways, and we got to be a part of this kingdom of restoration and see the restoration not only of physical properties, but of people's lives, and saw hope spring forth in people's lives, and so honored and humbled to be a part of this. And we want to encourage you and invite you to join with this movement with us as we continue to move forward. You know, I shared at the beginning of this, and you've heard some stories of these steps of faith, obedient faith that we've taken, and I think that there's more ahead. I think there are more steps to be taken in this journey. You know, 15 years ago, we didn't have a vision for what we're doing today. Today, we've got vision for the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, we really want to see this initiative and this movement that we're a part of grow and multiply. So in everything that we're working on right now, in these next years, we're going to be working on growing and multiplying. In our Resurgence program that you heard Sherelle talk about, we're looking at multiplying this, growing it and multiplying it into area schools here in the West Side, and then maybe around the city, to get a network of young people that are being investing in their spiritual, their academic, their social growth, raising up the future leaders of our community. Grand Rapids Immersion, working with incredible partners to grow this program, to see hundreds of young people from around West Michigan and from within our urban communities engaging together in a mission of restoration here in our community. Our Grand Rapids Bridge Year, looking at doubling the size of this program in the next couple of years here, and we're also in talks with people about a potential national multiplication of this program. So we're exploring different opportunities for growth and multiplication. We'd love to invite you to join with us on this journey. There's a couple of ways that I'd love to invite you to join with us. Number one is in prayer. We are always in need of prayer. It's a foundation of who we are as a ministry, as a community. I want to invite you in specifically to be a part of a prayer team. We send out prayer updates every month. We'd love to add your name to that with your permission and by your request to be a part of our prayer team. You'll receive prayer updates each month with specific prayer points that you can be praying for our ministry as we continue to move forward. There's opportunities to volunteer. We are not a staff-heavy organization, and so we're looking for a lot of volunteers in these next coming years to help us invest in young people. There's opportunities to invest weekly with young people. There's opportunities for service projects. There's opportunities to drive vans or help organize things. A number of different ways, events in a year that we need help planning and executing. We'd love to invite you to just be a part of this through volunteering and through service. And then lastly is financial. You know, about maybe only a quarter of our $600,000, $650,000 annual budget comes through earned revenue, through either program fees or we've got some fundraising events that we do. The vast majority of our annual budget comes through donations and fundraising, through faithful individuals that believe in this and that give generously of their means. Would invite you to consider giving a financial gift or becoming a monthly partner. You can find on our website ways that you can do that digitally, or you can get a hold of us and we can figure out other ways for you to contribute financially. But I'd love to invite you to be a part of this with us, to celebrate with us as we continue to move forward and look ahead to continued restoration in coming years. Thank you, God bless you, and we hope to see you soon.